Yo, what up, YouTube? So, watched this video the other day. It kind of stuck in my head, so I thought I'd reply to it. I have some notes. If I'm looking down, it's because I got notes on the floor. Also, you guys should see this. Hang on. She does this like all the time. Anyways, back to the video. Let's stay focused. So yeah, about me. I'm 46. I'm a dude, obviously. I'm in a relationship. I got three girls, two biological children, and one stepdaughter. And I grew up without very many women in my life outside of my mom. I went to a bunch of crazy boarding schools that were either all boys or segregated boys and girls. So I was a pretty naive young man, growing up in the 80s and 90s. And I really didn't start learning about women until like my 20s and like 1920 when I was in university. Um, so yeah, anyway, let's jump into this video. It's a perfect like social media 2006 attention grabbing title. It's called "The Myth of the Good Man: True Distribution of Evil Men." I think like draws you in, right? I don't know, it drew me in. I'm very interested in morality and good and evil and human nature, and whether we're destined to be the way that we are, whether we can change all this stuff. Yeah, very interesting. And yeah, this lady, she jumps right in. She's got lots of stats. Now most of the stats are like totally fake and just made up. But whatever. It's funny because she's very like men, but her presentation is very masculine, right? Like the obsession with statistics. I wrote down she's kind of like the feminist Ben Shapiro. She talks really fast. She throws like lots of data out there, like too quick for you to really respond to it all. But I got some notes down here, so I'll respond to as much as I can. So yeah, the data dump starts with how basically, well, society, according to her, says that like most men are good, and there's just a few bad apples who often tend to run things. But your average schmuck is basically a good dude. He's like trying his best, and yeah. So, but then she just goes into some stats right off the bat about how men are like worth. And the first one is like unarguably true, right? Men commit more like sexual abuse. Men are like more likely to be raped. I mean, physically, like men have to be rapists. I mean, a woman. Anyway, I don't want to get into gruesome details, but most sexual abuse is from men. Like most violence, I mean, at least violence that actually causes damage is from men. Like most murderers are men. Like obvious stuff. This is like I think every man like understands this. No one can really argue against it. You know, and any like good man is gonna feel like, damn, I really got to overcompensate. I got to make up for this stuff. So then she goes into other degeneracies. That's her word. Men are more likely to be drunks, alcoholics, gambling addicts. She throws out a lot of stats, most of which I find suspect. Like the ones that I did look up were false, but interesting. I didn't have time to look all of them up, but interestingly, she said most gambling addicts are men, and like severe gambling addicts, 98% are men, which actually I'd believe. And I mean, basically, women are more risk averse, and men are just more likely to like kind of go crazy with things, for profit or for ruin. And yeah, I mean that's kind of like the point of males. We add like some like wild cardness to life. That's why the Y chromosome evolved, because back when like everyone was like X or XX. I don't know. I'm not a biologist, but yeah, before when there was asexual reproduction, it was just basically cloning. So men, they create variation, and that's what leads to evolution. Um, obviously women have different genes as well. So and then she goes into porn, which I actually have strong opinions about porn. Neither my girlfriend or I watch porn. Um, yeah, we talked about it a lot. She basically considers it cheating, and I've come to agree, because you're basically, it's not just your eyeballs and your sexual energy, but you're I mean, if you're like at least someone normal person, like who's not a sociopath, you're going to have emotions when it comes to sex. So if you're like masturbating to pornography, you're going to like attach emotionally, even if you're aware, like, okay, this is an actress or actor. This is pixels on a screen. You're going to connect to the fantasy. And yeah, I think that's like very detrimental in a relationship, unless you have an agreement, or unless one, like, say you want to have sex like 3 times a day and your partner wants to have sex like 3 times a month, then like, I don't know, you got to negotiate. But I think just kind of defaulting to porn as like, well, I'm like horny, I need a release. Yeah, it's just not that simple. Um, but she cites some like factually incorrect stuff about porn. Well, she says like more men watch porn, more men are porn addicts, which, like, again, I'm not going to argue with that. That's like obviously true. But then she's like, the most watched porn categories are incest and teens. And this is, I'm like, I'm really curious about this, so I looked it up, and like that's just not true. Like anywhere I looked at, it's just not true. And I think what she's insinuating is that like men are like secretly pedos because they're like watching teens. Now I take issue with that, because even if men are watching teens, like teen, you have to be 18 to do like porn. You have to be 18 years old. And just like in the movies and TV, like a lot of people who portray 18-year-olds, like say college students on TV, like if you look them up, they're actually like 20, 25, even like sometimes late 20s. So yeah, and you might be like, oh my God, why would a man want to watch like 18-year-old or a 20-year-old? And it's like, because they're physically like, I don't know how to describe it in like analytical way. They're just, younger and more fit. And yeah, I mean, why do we watch sports? Do we watch like 70-year-olds play sports? No, we watch like men and women between like 18 and like 32, 35 play sports, because that's like the peak, right? I'm 46. I'm not going to be, well, I mean, even in my prime, I was never going to be a professional athlete. But it's just these weird insinuations that like all men are pedos or all men want to be pedos. It's like, it's just disrespectful. Um, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so, oh yeah, and here's a quote. She says, "Society tells us men are natural protectors or providers, but who do they protect us from? Other men." And like, again, she makes some good points. Like, I agree. Like when you think of protection against violence, like mostly that means protection from other men against violence. But men are also more likely to be like firefighters, EMT, um, yeah, ER staff, ER doctors, probably not nurses. But I mean, yeah, men are going to be first responders. Like, men do have a strong desire to like help and save. I think it's equal to the desire for destruction. And a lot of men get like really messed up in the head. They think like, we live in a society where good isn't rewarded, so let me be the bad guy. But yeah, you're more likely to be murdered by a dude, about like 80-90%, but you're probably also 80-90% more likely to have your life saved by a dude. So um, yeah, she's just kind of presenting the negative. Another thing that like kind of struck me, because this affects me personally, she talked about absentee fathers. Um, so again, like on face value, are there absentee mothers? Absolutely. Are there more absentee fathers? Absolutely. Like, but has this always been the case? Is this like a modern phenomenon? I mean, used to be like divorce was a big kind of taboo. And yeah, if there was a kid in the neighborhood from a broken family, that would be a big deal. Now she quotes 1 out of 4 households with children has an absentee father. And yeah, again, I didn't look this up, but that sounds pretty accurate. I mean, I have kids, I have a child in England and I have a child in America, and I'm not in America. But did I work hard to like take care of that child? Did I go to court? Did I fight really hard? I mean, the kid was like kidnapped from me. I don't want to get too personal, and I'm not going to get too personal. But I mean, I was this child's primary caretaker for a while. But like some dads are deadbeats because they're like, peace out, I don't want to be here. But a lot of dads lose custody in court because the default, like if you want to talk about society thinks like the mother is the better caretaker. The mother deserves to be the primary caretaker. And so they'll just default to the woman, unless the woman's like under a bridge, like with a needle in her arm, they're going to default to the mother. And yeah, I'm not going to get into my own trauma dealing with the family court system. But yeah, this is like an untalked about factor. And yeah, so it's a big topic. Anyway, another premise she gives is if most men are good, then why is the world run by evil men? And this is a good question, actually, to think about. And I'm sure like most sensitive people have thought about this. Like, if most people are good, why is so many, world leaders, corporate leaders, so greedy and controlling and not caring about the common person? And yeah, and then she goes on to be like all the governments, corporations, militaries, etc., are mostly run by men, the Epstein class. I mean, it's very topical right now. It's just really in your face how depraved these people are and how they're facing no consequences. And yeah, it's mostly men. And like, again, I can't argue with that. But you could argue that like it's not just like your normie man who's complicit, right? Like modern women, like modern young women are more educated. Often they're making equal or even more money than men. I mean, like young men today are in a big crisis. Like they're not going to university. They're like kind of dropping out of society. So to put it all on men, even though, as she points out later, which is true, men have run the world, run society for thousands of years. But I mean, it's been like 50 years since, more than 50 years since women have had suffrage. They can have bank accounts, they could have jobs. There's all sorts of programs. I don't know how it is now. Probably not good with Trump, but like, I mean, like a woman business was considered a minority business. Like, there's just been a lot of push for female equality, which like I'm all about it. But like you got to pick your lane. Either you're a victim and you can't do anything and it's all men's fault, or like you got to take some responsibility, which she doesn't really get to till like very late in the video. So okay, so this is a bit of the funny part. So she got a tier list, and this is like the Ben Shapiro bit where it's like she's got all these stats and she even shows a little graph. She's like, the worst men, it's like 2.2% of men are like the worst possible, like sociopaths, rapists, like genociders, like they're horrible. And then this is category 5. Think of it like hurricanes, right? Like category 5's the worst, and then as the numbers go down, you get better. So category 4 is like criminals and kind of I guess you could say like the low level people in the Trump administration, that like the people who are like obviously like rotten to the core, but they're not quite as depraved as level 5. Then she goes over level 3, which she kind of skips. She's like, level 3 is 68.2%. It's all like like the worst is 2.2, then it's 13.6, then 16.2. Like, where do you get this stuff? So 68.2 is like level 3, and these are the normies. And these are the men she claims like they're not really good, because if they could be like Epstein, or they could be like evil, they would be. They just don't have the power or the clout or the influence or the money to be evil. But they kind of want to be. They like all want to have like harems and slaves and exploit people. And yeah, she doesn't really give any evidence for this, but that's her opinion. And then level 4 is the like good guys, but they're not brave enough for her taste. So basically 13.6%, she says, of dudes who are like, they want to do good, they want to help people, they want to be a force for good in the world, but like they don't have the balls, I guess, to fight against evil. And then the best dudes, according to her, how does she describe them? Someone a good is someone who fights against evil and implements a better system, actively fights against evil. So the 2.2% of guys, they're like the superstars. They're going to stick it to the man. They're going to fight. Yeah. So, they're going to fight the 5 great evils. So then she's like, goes over the 5 great evils. So the 5 great evils, according to her, extreme wealth inequality, patriarchy, and the gender war. Like, this is really one of the five great evils? Okay. And then 3 is racism and nationalism, 4 is religious conflict, and 5 is war. I mean, I would like condense all this down into like, sure, let's keep extreme inequality. And then I would just say the rest, like destruction of and alienation from nature, right? Because all this war, racism, nationalism, um, yeah, it's just power dominance. I mean, it ties into the inequality. And we're basically like destroying the natural world for all life. And yeah, that's not good. So, okay, yeah. So her tier 3 rant about tier 3 men is like, yeah, I already explained it a bit. Most men don't wish they were good. They wish they could get away with degeneracy. Like they wish they could, again, like I said, have all this power over people and dominance. And yeah, they don't want to be Superman. They want to be the villain. And then she gives some a quote like, all it takes. What is her quote? No, her quote is oh yeah, absence of evil does not equate goodness. So she says this twice, and like, as the subway takes guy says, 100% agree. Um, yeah, it's similar to the quote, "All it takes for evil to triumph is good men to do nothing." Or my favorite by Da Vinci, which is more kind of to the point and more active, you could say. He who does not punish evil commands it to be done. So it's not just if you accept evil, you're like allowing it. It's like, no, you're commanding it. Like if you don't stand up for yourself, you're commanding abuse. And yeah, I like that more. It sounds even better in Italian. Yeah, but her premise is basically that these tier 3 men are not good. They're just contained evil. So no word about women yet and their responsibility or their attributes. But maybe she goes over this in a different video. Um, yeah, I already said this. Yeah, the tier 3 dudes, they really, really want to be a bad boy. They just can't get away with it. But if you gave them a few dollars and a bit of power, they would all become like a bunch of Epsteins. Um, yeah. So okay, then finally there's the tier 4 guys who are like, they're good guys, but they're kind of like not really gonna do much. They're just kind of like, they'll just be cool, but they're not going to really fight the power. When push comes to shove. And then the tier 5 guys, oh no, excuse me, the tier 1 guys, the top of the top, they're like, the ones self-sacrificing and going out there and, laying down their lives for their brothers and sisters and all that, which is funny because she's acting like this is some big revelation, this big like what's the word I used? I wrote it down somewhere else. Like it's very countercultural for her to think this, but really this is like mainstream. This is how like men are conditioned. Like you have to sacrifice yourself. You give yourself up. There's a famous JFK quote: "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," which is like laughable now with the government we have now and the state of the world we have now. But that used to mean something. It used to be like, oh yeah, I want to give my life for my country. I want to volunteer. But after all these horrible wars, where we're not defending ourselves, like we're just defending like corporate interests. Like people just don't believe that, which is kind of sad. Um, but I feel like the traditional masculinity of like service is falling apart because service to what? Service to who? Um, oh yeah. So here's another like premise she's got. If men and women were morally equal, we would see even 50-50 split in all categories of degeneracy. So let's say that's true. Let's say like, even though I don't think that that's true. I mean, obviously sex crimes and like violence and murder are like more in the domain of men, like most of the time, and maybe theft as well. Although it's like factual that if you have a man and a woman like both commit the same crime, both steal something, for instance, the woman's going to get a lighter sentence. I mean, if you're a white man, the white man's going to get a harsher sentence. If you're like a black guy or like a Muslim guy, like obviously it's going to be even worse for you. So, and women are just more likely to get away with stuff. Like I was friends with this lady in New York City. She was like the 60-year-old woman. She was a drug dealer, but like she's never going to get caught. Actually, she did get caught once, and the cop just kind of looked the other way because like yeah, if you got like a 60-year-old woman or like a 20-year-old black guy, like who are you going to frisk? Who are you going to search? And if you catch them, who are you going to punish harder? It's like, yeah. So I don't know, men and women are degenerate in their own ways, and men's like aggression and violence and crimes are like much more in your face, like absolutely. Um, like sexual abuse and war and violence, like you have to take that more seriously. Like men are more of a threat. Every child's like I've raised like three girls, and like by the time like a kid, a boy or a girl, by the time a kid is like a year and a half, 2 years, they understand like men are more dangerous. Like you have to watch out more for men, like physically, like a man could knock you down, a man could hurt you, and like adult women are like less overtly scary. But that doesn't mean that like I mean, like I said in the intro, I didn't grow up with a girl, so I was very naive. Like I was bullied in school by like boys mostly, and I was like a typical young man, like growing up in like you know, mm, whatever, not liberal America because my parents are conservative, but work like my dad's passed, but just kind of in the modern liberal democracy where like you're like women are what are all there's all these like nursery like women are sugar and spice and everything nice, boys are snips and snails and puppy dogs tails, like that, and all this romantic crap that like a girl is going to come rescue you and a girl is going to save you and a girl's going to understand you and a girl's going to heal you. So I was like pretty naturally misogynistic, I think, in some ways. I mean, I was probably like a male supremacist in other ways. I'm sure I had underlying assumptions about, men were better at certain things. But I mean, I think the premise of the last few hundred years is that like women are morally superior. Women are the fairer sex. Women are like, maybe they're more emotional, but they're more kind and generous and empathetic. And again, this affects like reality. This affects whether men get custody of their children. This affects like how comfortable men feel like becoming a teacher, becoming a nurse. Um, and like I'm guilty as well. Like even after everything I've been through with women, which I'm not going to get into in this video, like I still probably innately would trust a woman more in like certain roles. Um, yeah, and that's my own psychology, and I feel like I don't have to compete with a woman. It's just different. But anyway, this 50-50 split is kind of ridiculous. And even if it's true, right? Even if men are just much more degenerate, wouldn't that just make women just kind of like tier three men, where they're like not really actively evil, but they're not really doing anything either? Because again, like women are progressively getting more and more power, more and more education, like better and better jobs. So like at what point do you have to stop being the victim and start standing up for things? So all right. So we're almost done with her video, and then I'm just going to go into a few more thoughts for myself. Oh yeah, so she gives an example of Cesar Chavez as like a guy who we thought was tier one, but he turned out to be tier five because he's supposedly did sexual abuse. I think he was Mexican. He was, yeah, some kind of civil rights reformer for like workers' rights, farmers' rights. Um, yeah, and so he was a huge force for good, but behind the scenes, he was also a bad guy, which is just kind of like how humans are. Like all this tier one, tier five, like nobody is perfect, and a lot of these like perfect people, like Martin Luther King, and I'm sure Abraham Lincoln was like a dick sometimes. Like nobody's perfect. I mean, obviously, if he did sexual abuse, that's far less than perfect. And by the way, regarding sexual abuse, like I remember first like understanding about rape when I was like a little boy, and my first thought is like this is really horrible. This is horrible that like this is possible to like make children via rape, like, and I still kind of feel the same way. Like if you are convicted of rape, well, there's like a chance that you could be wrongly convicted, but if you're convicted of rape twice, like you should just get castrated, like end of, like there's like you should lose your right to sexuality, you should lose your right to like ever, you should just get taken out of the gene pool if you're a rapist, like. And dating women, when I first started dating women and realizing like how many have gone through sexual abuse, like it really affects me, and obviously not as much as it affects them, but it, yeah, to act like if you don't do that, you're complicit. I mean, personally, I don't understand rape. I mean, understand it mechanically, but like more than half of sex for me is being desired and being wanted. So if someone's actively horrified, like I just don't think I could physically function. But I mean, I do get where she's talking about with all these bad dudes, because yeah, when I was away at boarding school, I was at some like reform schools, like troubled teen industry, all this. And I remember I was like hanging out with these like three other kids, and one of them was like, "Yo, say you're like wandering the earth, you're outside, and there's an alley, and there's like a hot girl in the alley, and like you could like have sex with her, like whether she likes it or not, and no one would ever know. Would you do it?" And like the two other kids like said they'd do it, and I was the only one who said like, "No, like why would I do that?" So, I mean, I get there's a dark side to people. I get like I've been through some Lord of the Fly shit, and I know what that's like. And yeah, it scares me that if society collapsed or in any kind of calamity, the like horrors that are inside people. But I also think like any kind of division based on superficial characteristics or someone being responsible for someone else is like deeply off-putting to me. Like, you can acknowledge, what Europeans did to like Africans and Indians, um, without, hating yourself or feeling like you have to apologize all the time. Like, I don't know, feeling guilty like doesn't help anyone. Like taking action helps someone. Like this chick really, she feels like having an ideology is like helping, but having an ideology is like, it's just nothing. Like thinking what you think is nothing. Like your thoughts are nothing. Like what you do is something. Like how you help people. Better to help one person than like spread an ideology to like 100,000 people. Like it's just kind of lazy. Even if those 100,000 people do good things, like yo, go do something good yourself. Anyways, um, okay, so yeah, I already kind of went over this premise. Another premise she's got is basically a paraphrase: we can't have nice things because men are standing in the way. And again, women, like, what are women doing? Like, again, you guys have not equal power. I don't think your average woman, well, actually, I do think your average woman has pretty much the same level of power as your average guy. Like, the 0.01%, like, yeah, it's probably going to be mostly dudes. And, like, their wives have some power, but not as much as them. But, like, your average normie person, like, I think, yeah, average normie guy, average normie, like, female, like, just use your power. And yeah, she's like, oh, we've had male authority for thousands of years, and we're not in a utopia. There's still war, there's still famine, there's still, um, mass inequality, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, I agree. Oh yeah, and this one messed me up as well. She said we weigh a man's morality on person by person basis, but treat women as a collective. So obviously this is very ironic, because the whole premise of her video is treating men as a collective, and I just don't see this as true at all. Again, in the parenting sphere, like we treat women as the better parents and we treat men as like the worst parents, and like the family court system is going to be biased. The court system in general is going to be, you know, giving women more of the benefit of the doubt and punishing men. And again, in the top echelons of power, this is going to be the opposite. Like I realized this way back in the 90s when OJ Simpson was like got off scot free. You know, like before that there was like talking about racism, and obviously racism is a thing, but like yo, being rich like supersedes everything. Like you can get away with murder basically was the lesson of that trial. Um so yeah, I think people stereotype men, people stereotype women, people stereotype Jews, people stereotype, you know, you know, everyone. If you're not in the US or England and you're in some small country or small town, you're going to like stereotype people who go to a certain school or like wear certain clothes or listen to certain music. It's just part of human nature. But to be aware of it is the first step. So all right, let's see. We got three more pages, and then I got my thoughts. Oh yeah, so here's a premise which I agree with 100% that she says. She says don't marry or reproduce with bad men. But then she does her tier bullshit, don't reproduce or marry tier 5, 4 or 3 men. Only like ideally with tier 1 her like 2.2 like magical men, percent magical men. Um and yeah, I agree. Like I said, when I was a little boy and I like first heard about rape, I'm like, yeah, they should be castrated and like no one should ever touch them and no one should ever like have sex with them and they should be like eliminated from the gene pool. Um, oh yeah, and she throws in this expression "decenter men," which I thought is very funny because literally the whole video is about men, and even women's her one hack for like women to be empowered is to choose like a tier 1 man. So even the one hack is about men. Um, yeah, so yeah, choose a tier 1 man or remain celibate, which is like if tier 1 men are only 2% of the population, and like women are heterosexual and want to have sex with men, but they think because of this lady, they think 90% of men are evil. Like, yeah, this is gonna not be good for anybody, really. Um, oh yeah, and this is like kind of the tragic comedy, most tragic comic part of the video. She's like, I'm gonna use my boyfriend as an example, and she shows off her Instagram of like her boyfriend buying her flowers like every day for a month, like thousands and thousands of flowers. And then she's like, he's amazing. He remembers everything I say. He's really into me. He proposed, but I said no. And why did I say no? Because you're tier 2, mate. I'm tier 1. I'm a tier 1 woman. She literally is like, I'm a tier 1 woman. This is the first time she's done her categorization thing with women. So I'm really curious what like women's role and women's responsibility are in this. So she's like, yeah, mate, you're tier 2. Like she's like, oh yeah, and actually in a sick way, in a weird way, I kind of like like it's super narcissistic, but in a way it's kind of admirable because she's like, oh, he's so into me, he does everything I want, he like hangs on my every word, he's always giving me gifts, but he's not offering his life as a living sacrifice. He's just a tier 2 man. So you got to like prove yourself to me, mate, and then you'll be like a tier 1 man. And yeah, and then she goes on to be like, you have to be committed to my ideology. She used the word ideology maybe 10 times, but again, like where's the action? Like, because having these opinions, like being a feminist or being a communist or a liberal or conservative or environmentalist, it's like, well, I mean, at least if you say you're an environmentalist, you have to like match some actions to your words. But I just think that this ideology thing is like super overrated. I mean, it's really how you treat people in everyday life, which of course is going to be based on your ideology, but um, yeah, it's really who you are with like the people around you. So yeah, oh, and then she's like, I've given up so much for my ideology. You wouldn't believe how mean people are to me on social media. So like, yeah, I feel a bit bad that people are mean to her on social media, but I kind of get it as well. So like, that's not giving up anything because you're literally like engaging with the hate and like you're inviting the hate because it's going to get you more views. Like she didn't have to express everything the way she did, and if she didn't, I probably wouldn't be making this video. So I'm like feeding into it. But I don't know, I've thought about this gender stuff for a while and I never really talk about it. And I have like, my life is all female now. Like I got my girlfriend, I got my stepdaughter, I got my young daughter, I got my older daughter in America, I got my mom, my dad's passed away. I even got 2 girl cats. Like, yeah, like my main friend I even really talk to in America is a female. Like, I don't know, like I just got no like homies out here. I've been in England like 3 years, and yeah, yeah. Growing up, I like, well, I was always kind of a loner, so I've also only had a few friends, but I don't know. My life is like all girls now. So a few more notes. This is like not related to anything she said, just like stuff that came up. Hang on, I need water. It's really nice today. Springtime in England's great. So, are men obsessed with power? Like, undoubtedly. Like, dudes are obsessed with power. And if you don't admit that, like, as a guy, like, I don't know, you're full of it. Like, this is like, the good and the bad of being a man, right? And like, okay, let's take the evil side, right? Like, look at Chairman Mao Zedong. Like, from what I've read, the dude he would have like farmers bring their daughters, like teenage daughters, for him to do like God knows what to, like all like every night, like thousands of them. Like, and he's married. Not to mention causing famines, killing like millions of people, um, building a cult of personality around himself. I mean, he was the leader of the largest country in the world for like what, like 20, 25 years. And of course, we could get into Stalin, Genghis Khan. Like, supposedly Genghis Khan's DNA is in like 5% of Asians because, like, well, you can just do the math there. I mean, he conquered like vast swaths of land and, you know, reaps the benefits. I mean, I say that like, it's a horrible thing, right? But this is the facts. But you could also consider, think about all the like millions of men over the years who become monks, who become celibate, who've like gone up to like a hut to meditate, like the dude behind me, right, Buddha. Um, I mean, he did have one son, and then he gave it up um, for like this quest, right? And as a dude myself, I can I can relate to this. I mean, I've had times in my life where like I hated my sexuality. I hated my dick. I wished I was asexual. I hated the power that I felt like that women had over me, like sexually, emotionally. I just didn't want to like play that game. I really, and I think it's just a human thing. I felt the same way about like food. Like, this is why I almost starved to death in my 20s. Like, I just, um, yeah, I hate things that are not me, that I don't feel like I want to be me to control my life. So, I mean, you could say that that's also male nature. Like, I think male nature is very varied. There's like a very wide spectrum, and men, I think, are more vulnerable in a lot of ways to ourselves, to extremes, like the lady was saying, to gambling, to addiction. Yeah, there's something, I think it's just deep in our DNA, because for a lot of history, like most men were not reproducing, like society, like this lady correctly said, like society's been unequal for a long, long time. And for a long, long time, like if you're rich, you could have like four, five, six wives and like 30 kids. And if you're poor, like you're just like done. You're like going to be out of the gene pool, or you're going to be shipped off to war and like cut down before you're even like 18 years old. So it's been a brutal for both sexes in different ways. And this is affects like male psychology. And, there's no doubt about it. And we shouldn't lie to ourselves about it. But to be like cut and dry and say like men are evil, it's just like, I mean, I watched this video as a man. Your audience is going to be mostly female, but like, your audience is also going to be mothers and girls with boyfriends. Like, you got to think about how you're affecting people's like mentality, and we're supposed to be the tough guys. Like, you know, shouldn't matter what people say about us, right? Because we're men. Like, this is part of the male conditioning as well. Like, you know, I mean, being bullied, you learn this. You're like, whatever someone says to you, like it means nothing. You just act like it means nothing, because like your worth comes from inside. It comes from inside. It comes from inside. It comes from inside. But at the end of the day, like stuff people say, like does affect you, and stuff you read does affect you. So yeah, maybe get off your high horse. Um, oh yeah, what is this argument that tier 3 men are want to be evil? Could be turned on the risk averse women. Oh yeah, I kind of already went about that. Um, oh yeah, so are men more violent? Like, absolutely. But can women be violent? Like, I've experienced violence from women when I've like been in institutions and crazy ass boarding schools. Um, like, a woman will rarely initiate violence if there's any risk to her. But if like three strong dudes are like holding you down, like, like tackling you and holding you down, like a woman will happily like join in the fun, right? And I mean, you could see this in Abu Ghraib, I think that's how it's pronounced. This was like a big scandal in the George Bush administration. Basically, they had this prisoner camp. There's that famous picture of that like small female soldier. I think she's got like some Arab guy like around the neck by a collar. Maybe she's like got her foot on him. I mean, in these abuse scandals, like women will take part, but women won't take part if there's risk to them, because yeah, they don't like that. And I mean, same thing with family. I think like when people think about physical abuse, they think about a dad beating you up, but they don't think about like your mom slapping you around. I mean, I feel like mothers, like if you hear about older kids being abused, it's almost always by men, right? But like little kids, like again, I don't want to get too much into my personal life, but needless to say, like women will abuse, like physically abuse kids, like it does happen. Um, but they're more risk averse, so they're just not gonna like. I mean, it's just basic intelligence. Like if someone's bigger than you, you're not gonna hurt them. Um, yeah, and oh yeah, and then there's the Milgram experiment. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, where they put people in a lab and they had an authority figure tell them they're testing obedience or something like that, and they use shocks. And they had a scientist in the lab coat telling him like shock harder, and then the person's like, who's part of the experiment is like screaming in pain, like no, you got to stop, and then they go quiet, with the presupposition it's like yo, you basically killed them, and like 70% of people, like men or women, there's no difference, will go to the maximum shock volume. Now you could argue like, is this going to be replicable across cultures? Because there's this phenomenon called weird, is white, educated, industrial, rich, democratic. So a lot of kind of basic psychology that we think we understand about human nature is only based on like white Anglo people, like white Anglo rich people who go to these experiments. Um, and that's part of my point. I don't think we could really extrapolate on human nature, even based on like a few thousand years, because humanity is, depending on who you ask and how you draw the line between human and primate, or proto-human or whatever, um, hundreds of thousands of years old, and most cultures that have ever existed will know nothing about, because they've been destroyed and wiped out by more dominant tribes. So we're still figuring out human nature. So to have this tier list and to have this like this category and that category, I mean, it's pseudoscience. There's no other way to put it. It's like pseudoscience. It's the same as like phrenology, like the measuring of the head, or like racist science. It's just a bunch of crap. So yeah. Oh, and I mentioned this already. She acts like her thoughts are like revelatory, but they're just basic standard. My mom, she used to read the newspaper when I was a kid in the 80s, and she'd always be like, oh, like look at this world. Like men are so violent. They're always starting wars. They're doing this. They're doing that. Meanwhile, she's in her like suburban house having the benefits of all these wars, of all this like American interventionism, of like this cheap labor, Mexican men's like building the, addition to her house. I mean, my house as well. So yeah, yeah, and I mentioned this already too. It's just yeah, when you're a young guy and you start dating girls and you realize what like women have been through, you get, whew, you're like, wow, like this like blows my mind. This is like really really painful to even hear about. So, but just because you have compassion doesn't mean that you need to like turn against yourself. I just think that's very important to recognize. It's a dangerous game. So to conclude, I understand misandry. I understand misogyny. Famous quote. Another one more famous quote I'll end with. I am human and nothing human is alien to me. I could say it in Latin, but I don't know. You could look it up. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the myth of the good man and true distribution of evil men. Like, just be good. Don't worry about what you got going on down below. Just like, just be a good person, and fuck your ideology. Just be a good person and let the ideology follow that. I mean, come up with the ideology if you want. It's fun, right? Everyone loves ideology. It's like the new thing, but yeah, thanks for watching.